So we finally made the decision to move. It was a big decision to make. Before we get into the details of why and how and all those wonderful things, I'm going to take you back to 2016. Luke and I had just gotten engaged, and we decided, on top of planning a wedding, why not buy a house? And so we started looking at the market and, started looking at what we could afford and all these wonderful things. And as Luke said, we're in no rush. We'll find something eventually. Our lease was up in about 6 months, so it was a good time to start looking. And lo and behold, roughly 6 hours after I had started looking, I landed on this website for a developer. They were developing side-by-sides. And we looked at our budget, and we knew that we love the idea of building our house, our own home. And so we said, okay, let's look at bungalows. All the bungalows were very large for 2 people and 3 wonderful cats. So we decided that might be a little excessive. And then we saw that they had just started building these side-by-sides. So 2 houses attached to each other with 1 shared wall. And not built like the 1970s side-by-sides where you could hear everything on both sides. They were being built well and, with technologies from 2017 at the time, 16. And so we started looking at them. There was 2 different companies building them. And they were super cost effective because it was essentially kind of a mini pilot project as to whether or not these were going to be a really good fit for the market here in Winnipeg. And so we jumped on the opportunity. It was kind of too good to be true. The deal, we were getting 1,550 square feet over 2 floors. It was a beautiful brand new home with a small backyard with not a whole lot of, landscaping to be done because, obviously it's going to be developed. So we're going to have to landscape everything ourselves. And so we're like, let's do it. Fast forward 2 months, I land myself in the hospital and we're like, I'm going to recover. Everything will be fine by the time we move. We weren't taking possession for a few months. The house was just being built. And so we just kept trucking. And as the house was being built, we were getting more and more excited. And this was going to be our dream home. We're like, this is the house. We're going to live in this house for the rest of our lives. And eventually we're going to buy a cottage because we always loved cottage country and we always loved the idea of owning a cottage eventually. And, in our old age, living at the cottage full time. And that was kind of the dream. So we didn't need a big house in the city because we knew long-term our goal was to live outside of the city. And so that was the dream. We were finally starting to move forward. We were planning our wedding and, working with the builders to build our dream home. Everything was awesome. And even with, the health challenges I was going through at the time, we figured, it's going to be short term. We're going to get through this and, we'll move forward from there. So fast forward the next 3 years, Luke spends hours and we spend thousands of dollars finishing this home and making these lovely backyard plans and putting in a hot tub and doing all these things to this house that we thought was going to be our forever home. And as things progressed with my health and we started seeing some degeneration and, I wasn't bouncing back as fast as I was supposed to be and all these things, we started kind of talking about, should we move? Should we not move? Should we look at staying in this house but finding accommodations that would let us stay in the house? And I started spending more and more time on the 2nd floor and not really being able to be a part of our home anymore because I spent probably 80% of my life in, the last year or 2 in our bedroom, living, eating, sleeping, not really leaving that space. And when the pandemic hit, it got even more extreme because I had had a bout of illness non-related to COVID and things were getting a little bit more complicated. And as things started progressing and my health was kind of going downhill a little bit faster than we expected it to be, we started looking at each other and saying, you know what, this just doesn't work anymore. So do we make the house work for us or do we move? And so we started running the numbers and started looking at what our options were. And the longer we stewed and thought about it, the quicker we kept realizing that this dream home that we built and spent the last 3 years landscaping and building the way we wanted it to be built was just not going to be the forever home anymore. And that was a hard realization for us, because we thought that's where we were. There was not going to be another move. There wasn't going to be, we were going to make this house work. This was going to be the dream. We had the open concept. We had the extra bathrooms. We had the space we needed. And so, you keep thinking of these things, and you thought this is where you wanted to be. And, fast forward some medical complications, and that's, you don't know where you're going to be in 5 years from now. And I think one of the mistakes we made as a couple was to attach our joy to a house way more than we probably should have. But it's hard, right? You spend all this money and time and energy on this home that, is just a house that you want to make a home. And, we raised 2 of our little kitties in that house, and there's just a lot of memories, and in such a short amount of time. We had our engagement party in that house. I lived through a lot of health complications in that house. And so it was hard to say, you know what, after all of this time and everything, we're just going to say, okay, that's it, we're done. And so fast forward to 2020, pandemic, people do start to, rethink certain things, and, what really is important in life, and all these things are starting to kind of unravel. And, we just didn't know quite how to move forward financially. I had just been put on short term, and, we're early 2021, and we're like, okay, is it time? But the market here, the housing market's insane. And yeah, we'll make some decent money on our house that we're currently living in, but are we going to have to bid and pay astronomical amount for a new house that could work for us? And, at first we're like, we don't have the money. This is just not going to work. We're just going to, put it aside. We'll keep living the way we're living in this house and making it work. And we'll reevaluate in 6 months. And shortly after we had this conversation, I ended up having an incident at the house and falling down our stairs, and got fairly injured. And ironically, it's my mother-in-law's comment that kind of made us fast forward our timeline. And she's not usually the type to have a chat about these types of things and push us in certain directions. But she's like, Steph, have you guys not thought about moving? Like, has that not crossed your mind as something you may want to look at? And of course we thought about it, but to have your mom come in and say, you know what, I think it might be time to think about it a little bit more seriously. And I took it to heart. I knew she wanted the best for us. And, as much as we loved this house, was it time to just, move forward? And so, we should have probably started looking earlier, and we should have probably done a lot of things. But life throws wrenches and plans and throws all kinds of things at you every day. And, you got to keep making decisions every day to try and do the best you possibly can for your family and, your house and your life. And, it was hard. It was a hard decision to make emotionally, financially. We didn't know where we stood. And I think that was another thing we should have done or faster, was to talk to a mortgage rep and just have the conversation of where do we currently stand? Where could we go? What are the numbers? What are the actual numbers? Because in our heads, we just kept saying, no, this is just not going to work. But we didn't actually 100% know that. And we should have taken the steps to get a little better educated in what our options were and how the market was working a little bit faster than we did. But when we finally did make those decisions to talk to our mortgage rep and talk to our realtor that we worked with and stuff, we did realize that, okay, this might not be as out of reach as we originally thought it was. So now we have a more realistic understanding of what our next steps were going to be. And yeah, of course, it did make the decision of leaving our forever home any easier, but it did reassure us that it was time. And as much as I was finding it incredibly emotionally difficult to move forward and make those decisions to actually, let go of this house, we knew that we needed a home that was on one floor. That was the reality. And after all the time and energy we'd put into what was our forever home, or what we thought was, it was hard to say, let's just start all over again. But that's what needed to happen. And, here we are, 2021, we have a new house, which we're hoping to turn into a home. But I'm not going to say forever home. As much as I hope we don't move again, and as much as all of this, I hope, is going to be the forever home, I don't think home makes things forever. I think you have to enjoy what you have in front of you. You have to enjoy what life throws at you. It's not always easy, but there's reasons for certain things, and you might not understand them right away. But, this new house is going to give us a bunch of new opportunities, and things and opportunities our old house would have never been able to give us. And so I look forward to the future, and I look forward to you guys watching the renovation and everything that we're now going to be putting into this new house. But I want to leave you with this, that as much as a house is a home, it has to work for you. And if you're having challenges and you're having a hard time making that house work for you, due to that it be financial circumstances, that it be for emotional circumstances, that it be for your health, or whatever it ends up being, there are other options out there, and there are people out there that are there to help you through these big transitions, like leaving what you thought was your forever home. And so don't lose hope, and just reach out, and there's help out there. It's just a matter of asking for it. And I wish we would have done that a little bit faster. And so I hope that if anything you take from that is that there are people out there to support you through big life transitions, and we look forward to making our next house a home. And I hope you follow along with the journey.